People who've seen the quiet, nice kid finally snap, what happened? Story 1. One summer at camp, there was this kid who was a really frustrating bully. Looking back, he clearly had a bad home life and was incredibly insecure. But at the time, we all just hated his guts. He was constantly being annoying and picking on anyone he could. He wasn't what you generally picture as a bully. He was a small and skinny kid, but he had a horrible mean streak. There was one kid in particular he constantly went after. Dude was pretty quiet and non-confrontational, so the bully, I guess, saw him as a target. He did a bunch of petty stuff, threw the kid's sunglasses in a toilet full of doo-doo, locked the kid in a closet for like 2 minutes before someone else heard him banging and let him out. That sort of thing. As far as I know, he never beat him up or anything. It was more a million petty harassments. The very last day of camp, the bully happened to be sitting across the lunch table from the kid. The bully was talking to someone else up to his usual antics, and I guess the kid was sitting there, simmering in all the nonsense the bully had put him through, because out of nowhere and completely unprompted, in that moment, the kid just lunged across the table and started pummeling the bully. Literally went from zero to violence in an instant, tackled the bully, and was throwing wild haymakers at his head. The bully wound up beaten pretty badly. I don't think anything serious, but he was bruised and bloody. The kid was detained, and the last I saw was him standing looking sad by the camp office, while a counselor explained that the bully's parents would probably press charges. I did hear 2 other kids who were friends with the kid and saw firsthand everything that the bully had done to him. Both submitted affidavits attesting to the abuse the bully had heaped on the kid. No idea if that helped at all. Story 2. When we were about 15, our classmates realized my brother was nearly impossible to wind up and tried to use this as a game at lunchtimes. My brother would sit eating his lunch whilst they played catch over his head. The goal was to have near misses to win my brother up rather than actually get him with anything. For the first 5 minutes, my brother is playing along, telling the 2 classmates what terrible aims they were, that they just couldn't hit a stationary person. He obviously got bored of the game and asked them to stop a few times. They didn't. They had been throwing bits of their lunch across the room, the object changing as they ate. It got to the point they were throwing an unopened carton of milk across the room. My brother firmly asked them to stop, as if they hit him, it would hurt and he didn't want to be covered in milk. He asked several times. He was ignored. At this point, my brother is still pretty chilled out, considering he's had 30 minutes of being wound up. Then it happened. I heard a thud, a split, and the sound of liquid splatting on the table and floor. I looked up to see my brother absolutely covered in milk, like someone had thrown a sheet over him. The room was silent. My brother suddenly roared the name of the classmate who had thrown it and stood up suddenly. The guy paled. Literally went more white than my brother currently was. He legged it out the room and down the corridor, knowing he had gone too far. Now, there's 2 things you need to know about my brother. Before this point, I had never seen him snap and seared with anger. He also has cerebral palsy, and although he can walk around well enough, he's never been any good at anything considered sporty. Well, that day, the anger radiated off my brother, and he ran through the room, sending tables and chairs flying, and he chased down the offender. I had just managed to get my head round the classroom door to look down the corridor to see my brother, already 40 meters away, flying through all these double doors like they weren't even there. He somehow caught up to the offender and had him pinned by the collar against the wall. The classmate was not a small dude. I could see him pulling his arm back to hit him round the jaw when a teacher who had heard the commotion dragged him off him, nearly getting hit themselves. It took my brother a good hour to calm back down to be rational and stop threatening to kill my classmates. Apparently, as my brother has burst through all these doors a year, 7 girls had gotten flattened against a wall by the door and broken her nose. My brother sincerely apologized to her. The classmate had to apologize to my brother, but my brother flatly refused to apologize to the classmate, justified in my eyes. My mom brought my brother some more uniform in. Not seen my brother lose his cool like that again. Story 3. My daughter was riding the bus home from school one day when an older student started taunting her. Her father had passed a couple of months earlier, and he had a drinking problem. Most of the school knew, but nothing was really said. This boy started getting in her face about, "Aren't you glad your daddy's dead? He was such a low life, drinking all the time," and other stuff along those lines. Bus driver told him to stop. He did for a few days and then started again. That time she got up out of her seat and just started pounding on him, first with her backpack, then with her fists. He ended up with a black eye, a bloody nose, and quite a few spectacular bruises. He was suspended from riding the bus for a week, but his dad, who was the school custodian, took it a step further. He took him to school the rest of the school year and had him help clean all the buses every day after they got back from dropping off the kids. Story 4. In the 7th grade, there was this kid who was just a little overweight, not really fat, shy, quiet, never bothered anybody. But this one bully loved to pick on him. One day he shoved him into the girls' bathroom, and the next he'd get an atomic wedgie. But one day the bully, like all bullies do, went too far. We were at the cafeteria and the overweight kid was getting ready to eat his dessert, a brownie. It was small and hard as a rock, but we all loved the days we got fudge brownies. The bully grabbed the brownie away from the kid. That did it. The kid took his tray and beat the living shit out of the bully. Beat the bully unconscious and sent by ambulance to the hospital. The bully came to school a month later with a new outlook on life. He was a different person entirely now. The bully in him was gone. In fact, on the days we had brownies for dessert, the bully wouldn't come in the cafeteria. Yeah, that SOB never bothered me again. Story 5. As a teacher, it was in a 7th grade math class for remedial kids. This was years ago when they had these classes. The class was rough as I had several bullies I had to control. One day Todd, one of the worst, bullied Krista too far. He laughed that her mother was in a psychiatric facility and Krista took a pen and stabbed him in the jugular. Ambulance was called, he started to bleed out, cops were called, the works. The craziest part is it was the one day I had a sub as my district sent me to a conference. Todd lived and his parents wanted to sue but dropped that when they realized their son was a total little psycho from a lot of other incidents at the school. It's been many years, but I can still picture his little smug smile. Story 6. One of my cousins is the chillest dude out there. Super friendly, very easygoing in life. In high school, some adults would be all, "You need to drug test that kid. That kid is high." No, he's just chilling and smiling. I mean, occasionally he was high TBH, but he just always has that aura of peace. I, on the other hand, was a hyperactive, impulsive, always moving agent of chaos. We were little kids, 7 and 6 or so, and I was staying at my uncle's for summer. He had a bunch of people over at the house and somebody had brought ice cream for the kids. We were eating it out of cones and I leaned over and pushed his ice cream off the cone and laughed like a maniac. And then he launched himself at me, knocked me off my chair, and we ended up rolling around on the ground, throwing punches at each other like cage fighters. Only time that we've ever fought with each other. Story 7. I went to high school with a very smart, very quiet kid. He took all the college prep and advanced classes. He graduated salutatorian of our class. Then we both attended the same university together, but he kept to himself throughout high school and even at university. So I never knew him very well, although in hindsight, I wish I had, because maybe things would have turned out different if he had a friend. Anyways, at the end of our first year at university, he and his mother were arrested for murdering his mother's boyfriend. Their motive, as it was reported, was to get life insurance, approximately $1 million. But I think it goes deeper than that. I think there were other things going on at home to the point where he just snapped and probably felt he had no other choice. Because the reports made it seem like it was his mother who planned the murder. He was just going along with her. They're both serving life sentences now. Story 8. My Earth and Space teacher. Oh boy, he either retired this year or is going to retire next year. Super cool guy, tells funny stories, is popular with students, is a redneck, so he gets along with basically everyone. Anyways, he's pretty relaxed, but there is 2 rules he enforced with a passion. No phones and be respectful. So we had a ton of problem kids and would always pull out their phones. He would usually just tell them to put them away much, and they would. Then towards the end of the year, a problem kid who originally sat in the back of the class who got moved to the front because he was such a problem, put his head down as if he was bored or tired. I guess my teacher had a bad class beforehand or something, because he went ballistic. I'm also in the front of the class, but never caused trouble. He never changed seats the entire year unless you were a problem. So this happened right next to me. He leans over and gets in the kid's face and screams for the kid to get out of the classroom, and he's being extremely disrespectful. The kid asked what he did, which only pissed him off more. He grabs an extra chair in the front of the class and just slides it out of the door very hard, and it just falls over in the hallway. He tells it the kid again, and the kid gets up and goes outside the room. The teacher follows him and closes the door very loudly. The door was broken, so closing it very slowly would still make a loud bang kind of sound. The door shook as if it was going to fall off the hinges. Kids' classrooms up the hall heard this and him yelling. I could hear him through the door saying that he was going to call his parents and schedule a meeting regarding being disrespectful in class and all that. The teacher walks back in, and as he's closing the door, the kid says something. I don't think it was anything bad, he was just confused. And the teacher goes back out, and I hear more yelling, and the teacher walks back in, closes the door, and under his breath I hear him say, "Yay, right." And he continues the lesson. The next class, the kid wasn't there, and the teacher asked why, and one of the kid's friends said that he was in the principal's office every day until his schedule was changed. The teacher abandoned the class, went to the office, brought the kid back and made a public apology, and said that he overreacted and was immature. Hey, if you like this video, consider liking and maybe even subscribing. See you next time.